Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining. I'm Taylor Anderson, Marketing Specialist at Success. Today, we are going to talk about the modern workplace and how to use Microsoft 365 to maximize your team's efficiency while keeping your data secure. The topics that we'll cover are real-time collaboration, work from anywhere on any device, files in one accessible place, online meetings, and nonstop data security. If you have questions along the way, you can throw them in the chat or you can save them until the end. For the sake of presentation flow, we're going to answer all the questions at the end. So with that, I'll hand it over to our presenter, Vanessa Bryant, Marketing Manager here at Success.
Thank you, Taylor, for that great introduction. Hi, everyone, and good morning. My name is Vanessa. I'm the Marketing Manager at Success, and I guess you could say a modern workplace enthusiast. So let's quickly hop into today's agenda. I wanted to make sure my mic was on there. Okay. So our agenda for today, Taylor did touch on this, but we're going to take some time defining what the modern workplace is. So what is this jargony word we keep throwing out there? We're going to put a little definition around that. We're going to talk about modern files in Microsoft 365. We're going to talk about how we can communicate and meet in Microsoft Teams, manage our team with Microsoft Planner, and then, of course, answer all those burning questions that you have. As Taylor had mentioned, just for the sake of presentation flow, we're going to answer all those questions at the end of the event. But if you want to get them off your chest, you can always plop them into the chat during the event, and we'll address them at the end. All right, so let's jump into it. First, what is the modern workplace? Well, the modern workplace is a set of tools and a way of working that enables employees to work productively and securely, regardless of their location. And this concept of the modern workplace has just been fueled and accelerated by the pandemic. It's basically what we've been living for these past couple of years. So moving to the modern workplace requires a different way of working than what many of us are used to. Legacy systems tie us to the office, where security is perimeter-based. Collaboration is restricted by the deep file structures, and getting work done is highly dependent on IT. Whereas the modern workplace is more fluid than ever. Employees get to choose where they get their work done, whether that's in the office full-time, remotely full-time, or alternating their time between the both. This hybrid approach requires a platform that allows employees to access their work content from anywhere, enables frictionless meetings, and provides the tools they need to do their job. Thus, this technology that relies on being confined to the walls of your office or a clunky VPN does not allow for this type of work to happen. So let's start off by exploring modern files in Microsoft 365. Working with files in Microsoft 365 provides more mobility and capabilities than a server can. You can access your files from anywhere. You can securely share inside and outside your organization, and you can experience real-time collaboration and file versioning. When working in Microsoft 365, we have a few different products to choose from. First, we have OneDrive and Teams, and these should be viewed as editing and collaborative spaces. And SharePoint should be viewed as publishing spaces. OneDrive you can think of as my stuff. This is your private working space that remains private until you generate a sharing link and share your documents with others. OneDrive is great for personal files and initial drafts before they're ready for sharing. And Teams is just that, it's your team stuff. It's for smaller groups of people, usually all with edit permissions. It's great for team and project-based work, where people need to access a shared document library or space for editing and collaboration. And SharePoint is everyone's stuff. It's larger groups of people or an entire organization, usually with read-only permissions. It's great for information that is organization-wide. It typically includes documents like policies or service and product documentation, marketing information, anything that is consumed by a larger audience. So another way I kind of talk about this is everything that happens in OneDrive and Microsoft Teams is where you're working with others, you're collaborating, it's in that rough draft messy form, and it's basically where the work gets done before you publish it to SharePoint. So think of like a polished document that is going to be consumed by the entire organization. That might be completed by one or many of you, and you're going to do that in those collaboration spaces before it gets to SharePoint and where it can be consumed by a larger group of people. So what goes where? The spheres of collaboration are another way to determine what goes where in Microsoft 365. So moving from sphere to sphere, we have OneDrive, Teams, and SharePoint, and the Office 365 applications that commonly go hand in hand with each of these. At the OneDrive level, your audience is private, and as you scale up, your audience gets larger and larger. These spheres also translate into workstage. So documents in your OneDrive are often in rough draft form and messy, and as you scale up, your work gets more polished. You can also think again of OneDrive and Teams as those create spaces, and SharePoint as a place where you consume information. So let's get started with modern files. So I'm going to give you 4 tips here to get started with creating, sharing, and collaborating with files in Microsoft 365. So tip number 1, save your files in the cloud to get the benefit of the cloud. So this may sound simple and obvious, but many people bring old habits with them when they transition to Microsoft 365. So we're going to think about this in a few different ways: stop, start, and result. So first, we're going to stop storing files on a server that is only accessible over a legacy VPN or remote desktop. And we're going to start storing files in the cloud where they are searchable and accessible on any device. And as a result, we're going to have quick access to content from anywhere and the flexibility to work wherever you need. So let's walk through what this looks like. Here I have a Word document. And just like any other file, I'm going to select File, Save As. And from here, I can save this file directly into my cloud locations. I can save it into my OneDrive, or I can save it directly to a team or shared document library. I can also use the Browse option and save the file directly into my synced libraries. For this example, I'm going to save this document in my marketing team general channel. So here I have this library synced. I'm going to click Save. And once it's saved, you will notice that the title of the file changes from Saved to this PC to Saved. And if I click on it, it will show me its cloud location. Another indicator that my file is saved in the cloud is the autosave button automatically turns on. This means that my changes and edits are being automatically saved and synced, meaning no more lost files when my PC freezes. Tip number 2, sync your files. So we're going to stop accessing and uploading cloud documents in the browser all the time. So sometimes it does make sense to access documents in the browser when you're not frequently accessing documents in that library all the time. But most of the time it does help to sync those file libraries. And we're going to start syncing those files in your OneDrive, Teams, and SharePoint locations so they're always available on your computer, even if you're offline. And as a result, you can add, edit, or remove files, and your changes sync automatically to the cloud. So let's quickly walk through how to do this. You're going to open your browser and navigate to OneDrive. At the top of your browser, you will see a sync button, and this will take you through the process of syncing your OneDrive files to your File Explorer so you can access your files right from an already familiar location. You can also sync your team and SharePoint document libraries. So in Teams, you're going to navigate to the team and channel you would like to sync, and then go to the Files tab of the channel and click Sync right from Teams. And you can also sync files directly from SharePoint following that same process. So when you sync shared document libraries from Teams and SharePoint, they will actually appear in a different section in your File Explorer underneath your company name. So here, my shared document libraries are going to be underneath Success Computer Consulting. This indicates that these document libraries are shared libraries. Tip number 3, share your files. So we're going to stop sending email attachments back and forth and using Save As to track versions. We're going to start sharing links to files and co-authoring documents in OneDrive, Teams, or SharePoint. And as a result, we're going to have one source of truth, less back and forth, and autosave and versions are automatic. In this example, I want to share a retail performance document with my colleague. As you can see, my file is already saved in the cloud and in a shared document library. And I know that because it's underneath that Success Computer Consulting section in my File Explorer. So to generate a sharing link from a synced document library, I'm going to right-click the file I want to share and click Share. This will prompt me with my different file sharing options. I have an anyone link, people in my organization link, people with existing access, or specific people. These built-in parameters give you the power to modify the audience who can access the link. Once you choose your link type, you can indicate the recipient and send the link via email, or you can simply click copy to copy the sharing link. Once you have that link, you can use a vehicle like Teams Chat to paste and send the link to your colleague. And when your colleague receives that link, they're going to receive the real-time updated version of that document. You don't have to worry if it's like version 3, version final, whatever. It's always going to be the most up-to-date document. And this sharing experience is similar when sharing a file directly from the Teams application. So here I can access that same file using the Teams app. To share it from Teams, I'm just going to select that ellipses and click copy link. And here you will see that this will prompt you with the same link sharing options. And lastly, if you're sharing a file right from an application, the sharing options are, again, identical. So this concept of file sharing is consistent across the entire Microsoft 365 ecosystem. Whether you're in a browser, an application, your file explorer, or email, it's the same sharing experience and the same sharing capabilities. Tip number 4, collaborate. So now that we know how to generate sharing links, let's use them. So our stop and start actions are going to be very similar here. Again, we're going to stop using Save As to track multiple versions. We're going to start sharing links to files and co-authoring documents in OneDrive, Teams, and SharePoint. And as a result, we're going to have one source of truth, less back and forth, and autosave and versions are automatic. So let's take a peek at what a co-authoring experience can look like. So in this example, my coworker and I are updating and editing the Eastern Region Retail Performance document that I recently shared with her. So before you start making edits, it's important to make sure that track changes have been turned on for everyone. This feature will automatically track the changes and updates users make in a document. This feature will note any redactions or additions to the contents of a document. And once all those edits have been implemented and reviewed, you can easily accept or reject all changes. Even more, you can add comments to different sections of the document to call out any changes or any questions for your coworkers. You can mention them to get their attention here as well. And you can also reply to comments from other coworkers, like I'm doing right here. And lastly, you can easily view the version history of the document and who edited the document. In the case you would like to compare earlier versions of the document to the most recent version, you can do that from here. So again, this is a huge game changer for those who have files labeled like V3, V4, final, just kidding. Like this one's actually final. I know we've all been there. We have all that version history built right into the document using Microsoft 365. So now that we know how to save, create, share, and collaborate on files across Microsoft 365, let's recap the benefits of modern collaboration. So here we have email versus modern collaboration. We're talking about email attachments versus working in OneDrive or Microsoft Teams. So track changes. Can we do that with an email attachment? Well, you can, but that's like a huge time suck and it's pretty difficult. OneDrive and Teams make that super easy. Can you revoke access to an email attachment? You can't. Once that email attachment is sent, it is sent. Think about sensitive information here. If you accidentally attach the wrong document, you really have no way of getting that document back. But using OneDrive and Teams, you can easily revoke access through that link. So if you share a link, you can always revoke the access to whoever you granted access to in a couple of clicks. Version control with email attachments. Nope, we just have that sprawl like we've been talking about with like version 2, 3, 4. But with OneDrive and Teams, you have that built-in history. Can you co-author an email attachment? You cannot. But in OneDrive and Teams, they make that pretty easy to do. I do it every day. Once you get the hang of co-authoring, it's like you can't stop doing it. You also have file size limits with attachments. So if you've ever tried to attach like a large PowerPoint file or maybe a large video file, you find that you get an error and it's too big to attach. Using a link, you have a lot more flexibility for those larger file sizes. And then lastly, it's a Giza era legacy tool. You could argue that email attachments are like super old school, whereas sharing links are the cool modern way of working. Okay, so moving on from modern files, let's talk about how we can communicate, meet, and present using Microsoft Teams. I'm sure many of you got used to doing this over the pandemic and over the past couple of years. So some of this might be repeat information to you, but I'm hoping that you can maybe learn a couple of things. So tip number 1, improve the way you schedule your meetings. So if you have a large, fluid team that meets frequently, you're probably familiar with the challenges of scheduling those meetings. So here's one tip to help streamline this process. So instead of typing in each individual team member in Teams meeting invites and inevitably forgetting someone. So again, if you have that large team with people kind of coming and going, that membership changes, can get really difficult to keep track and make sure that you're inviting each team member. So we can start inviting your entire team in just one click. And as a result, we're going to have some time saved and improved accuracy. So I'll quickly show how this is done. So since most of us schedule meetings out of Outlook, let's start here. So instead of typing in the name of each team member, so if I'm going to like type Nestor, no, that's going to take a long time. I can invite my entire team using the Microsoft team name, so sales and marketing, and that invitation will send to each member that is a part of that team. So again, this definitely saves some time and ensures that I have that entire team invited. This process is exactly the same when scheduling meetings right from the Teams app. You can add your meeting title, and then you can define which team you want to invite to the meeting. So this is my Mark 8 project team. That's going to invite all members to that meeting. Tip number 2 is going to be to adjust your meeting options for a better meeting experience. This is one of those lesser known Teams meeting features, so I'd like to call this out. So prior to your meeting starting, you can select the ellipses in the top right corner and select meeting options. So let's touch on a few of these settings here. The Microsoft Teams lobby is basically a holding pen for people prior to accessing the meeting. So let's say you're hosting a customer call with another coworker and you want to touch base with them before the meeting starts. Using the bypass lobby options, you can select people in my organization, and this will hold the customer in the lobby until you're ready to let them in. So you can have those more sensitive conversations with the members of your organization while that customer is in the lobby. And once you're all on the same page, you can then admit that customer into the lobby, and you can have that better meeting experience from there. I also like to turn off announce when callers join or leave because that's always pretty disruptive. You can also modify who has the ability to present during your meeting. You can also use these settings to enable mic and camera access for attendees, or if you'd like the meeting to be recorded automatically. Tip number 3 is going to be to record and transcribe your meetings. So let's stop electing someone to take extensive meeting notes. If you're that someone that always gets called on for this, it kind of sucks because you are so focused on taking meeting notes that you can't even absorb the rest of the meeting. And it's just not super enjoyable. Well, teams can just take your meeting notes for you using that transcription feature. So again, we're going to stop electing someone to take extensive meeting notes. We're going to start recording and transcribing our meetings. And as a result, we're going to have instant meeting notes and we're going to never miss a meeting. So let's take a look at how to do this in action. In your meeting, you're going to select the ellipses at the top menu bar and select Start Recording. This will automatically start the meeting recording and the transcription. So here you can see the transcription pops up on the right side. So this is a pre-recorded meeting I had with Taylor. Another great option for meetings is to use the live captions option. So you can do that by going to the menu and selecting turn on live captions. Keep in mind that Teams does not save live captions, so the transcription piece will be the way to capture your meeting dialogue to reference again in the future. To stop the recording, you'll just navigate back to that menu and you'll select stop recording from there. It'll prompt you and you'll click the next button. And so now that we've recorded and transcribed our meeting, we're going to want to access that meeting recording and transcription. So to do that, when the meeting is over, the recording and transcript is immediately available in the meeting event on the calendar. So in the Teams app, you'll navigate to that meeting invite and expand the meeting details. Here, you can quickly access the meeting recording and share, copy a link, or download the MP4. So additionally, you can hop back into that meeting and meeting participants can download that meeting transcript and you can use this for notes. So I know you're not going to need to use every single piece of text that's included in that transcription, but it can definitely get you started on recapping any action items or slimming that down to create some better meeting notes from there. Tip number 4 is going to be to use polls in Teams meetings to gather feedback or votes. So we're going to stop using email to gather your team's feedback or a vote. We're going to start using polls on demand in your team meetings. And as a result, we're going to have time saved and instant results. So in this example, my team is meeting for a virtual lunch, and I want to ask them where we should get lunch next month. So to do this, within the meeting details, I'm going to click on that plus icon and then search for Microsoft Forms. On the next screen, and then click Save from there. And from here, You can create a poll prior to your meeting using Create New, or you can join the meeting and create a poll on demand. So let's take a look at what that looks like. So to do this, you're going to click Polls and then Create New. And then you're going to indicate the type of form that you want to use. So we're going to do multiple choice. And then you're going to type in your question, which is, where should we get lunch next month? And then I'm going to type in my options as well. And then I'm going to save as a draft, and that will populate it on the right-hand side. And from there, I can launch that poll live during a meeting. So again, instead of like counting hands or following up with an email after that meeting to get feedback and then tracking all those replies, this is just a really great, simple way to get feedback or votes on a question. There are many different ways you can use this during meetings. This was kind of just a simple example. Tip number 5, we're going to talk about breakout rooms. So if you haven't used breakout rooms, I definitely encourage you to do that. It's a great way to give everyone in your meeting a voice. So instead of like a stop suggestion here, I rephrased it as a don't. And don't forget about the quiet team members in your meetings, especially in those larger meetings. Some people can definitely tend to dominate those discussions. And so breakout rooms are a great way to give everyone a voice in your meeting. And as a result, we can have more inclusive meetings and better discussions. So let's see how to do this in action. So here we are in our main session, and on the top menu bar, there's an icon for breakout rooms. When you click on this, you can indicate how many rooms you want and the option to manually or automatically assign participants to the breakout rooms. So I'm going to manually assign my participants, and I'm prompted to assign the attendees to their breakout rooms. So I'll put D in room 1 and Taylor in room 2. And I'll click assign. And before I send my participants to their rooms, I can adjust the breakout room settings by clicking the gear icon. So here I have a couple of different options that I can toggle on or off, set a time limit, assign presenters to manage the different rooms. And once those settings are in place, I can open the meeting rooms, and this will send my participants to their assigned rooms. I think it gives all of the participants like a 10-second warning that they're about to leave. And then as the meeting organizer, I have the option to join either of those rooms. And here I am in room 2 or in Dee's room, separate from the rest of the group. So here you can facilitate those smaller discussions, give those quiet people a voice. Once the breakout rooms are complete, I can close them, and that will send everyone back into that main session. So we can reconvene as a larger group, maybe talk about what we discussed as smaller groups, what those takeaways were. Again, a really great option to give those quiet ones a platform to speak up in a smaller setting. So as we wrap up the meeting portion of this presentation, I did want to leave you all with some great shortcut tips for Microsoft Teams meetings. So you can go ahead and screenshot this. We can also, we'll include this in our follow-up email as well. But for someone who is joining virtual meeting after virtual meeting these days, these shortcuts are definitely helpful. So again, on the Microsoft Teams topic, I didn't want to leave this conversation without talking about how we can improve communications by reducing your team and project-related email. So to do this, we're going to stop drafting email communications to your team and receiving a string of replies. I can't tell you how difficult it is to manage those email conversations when you send maybe an email to a group of people, and then one person replies all, but then the next person replies to you only, and then you're trying to manage all those responses. They're not threaded in a really easy way, and they can definitely get lost in your inbox. So to help improve those communications, we want to start organizing our comms into teams and channels. And as a result, we're going to have less email responses to keep track of. And we also have that ability to tune into the conversations you care about. So organizing your team and project-related communications into teams and channels improves visibility, it facilitates collaboration, and it keeps replies in one place. So here the screenshot kind of captures what that threaded conversation looks like. So this makes it really easy for a team member just to pick up like where things left off, quickly update themselves with what's going on. Everything around usability testing here is just going to be in this area, and you're not searching different variations of that phrase in your Outlook email inbox. And then sometimes it's like Outlook returns every other email that could possibly exist except for the one you're looking for. This is just a great way to keep that conversation in one nice place. The thing here that's important is that everyone on your team is going to need to adopt Teams in order to make this successful. So if you only have one person posting in here all the time, but then other people are emailing about the same subject, you're not going to get the benefit of working in that Teams and channels for your communications. So lastly, I do want to review how you can use Microsoft Planner to better manage your team. So managing your team in to-dos, we're going to stop managing tasks in an Excel spreadsheet, an email, or a disparate tool. We're going to start using Microsoft Planner. And as a result, we have an easy to access tool that uses team membership, and all of our tasks are in one location. So from portal.office.com, you're going to select the app launcher and select Microsoft Planner. Here you can view your recent plans, and you can create a new plan using the new plan icon in the top left corner. This will prompt you to give your plan a name and the option to add an already existing Microsoft 365 group, or in other words, an already established Microsoft team. So now that we have our membership defined, we can start adding task buckets, and task buckets help us organize our team tasks into different topics. And underneath those buckets, you can start creating relevant tasks for your team members to complete. So you can give each task a title, you can assign it, and you can set the due date right from that card. So again, it makes it really easy and interactive to do this. All your members populate there. And then clicking into the task, we have even more options to organize our work. We can use labels to categorize the tasks even more. So here, this task, this individual needs to work with our agency to complete it. So I'm going to use that as a way to signify that. We can update progress, priority. We can even type in some notes for that team member. And you can also add a checklist. So if this task is something that is process-based, you can have a checklist for that team member to follow. To make this plan easily accessible for the entire team, you can navigate to the Teams app in the appropriate team and channel. You can select that Add button at the top and search for Tasks by Planner. And from here, you can search for an existing plan, create a new plan. We just created that 2022 marketing plan, so I'm going to select that, select Save. And now my team can access their tasks right from this Teams app. So everything relevant to that conversation is in one place, including the tasks. Even more, users can add the Task by Planner app to their menu bar. and view their tasks across multiple teams and projects. So this is a somewhat new or newer feature that Microsoft Teams added. A common challenge is that people are a part of many projects and in many teams. So they've incorporated a way to view all of your tasks across multiple plans in one area, but you can also dive into specific plans from this location as well. Again, you can also create your own personal to-do list right from this area. So tasks is the to-do app. And from here, if you want personal to-do list to keep you on track, you can keep that in this location as well. So the idea here is that all your tasks, whether they're your personal tasks or your team or project related tasks, they're all living in one section. All right. So it's time for questions. I went through that pretty quickly, so I want to make sure that we're addressing any questions that you guys might have.
It's one question in the chat.
Okay. So can you make a template for repeatable use in Planner? Yes, you can. Let me see if I can kind of show you what that looks like. So let's see, going to your plan. So here we have our 2022 marketing plan. One way that you can create, so let's say maybe we wanted to name this plan like template instead, and we can build out our tasks to just be like those bones of the task. So whether that's like what the title and the steps and the labels, you can kind of build out what that template looks like. And then once you have that complete, you can copy the plan. And you could select the group. So maybe it's the same group again, or maybe you want to use it with another team of people. And then again, you can select what things you want to copy over. So if you want to leave like the description out or the checklist out, you have the ability to do that there. And then so once you select that group, you can copy the plan. So my suggestion would be to like label those plans like template and then copy them from there. Okay, good questions here. Okay, Outlook tasks and flagged emails into the Teams Planner and To-Do app as well. Yes, I'm not as familiar with this feature, but I do know that if you have Outlook tasks flagged to follow up on, that your planner or your to-do tasks can incorporate those as well. So in your planner app, you can reference those flagged emails as well. Is there a backup way to recover files that accidentally get deleted on OneDrive or SharePoint? Yes, there is, but your organization needs to have Microsoft 365 backup in place. I'm not the product expert in this piece. Judd, I see you're on this call. Are you able to unmute yourself? I don't know if he can allow Mike.
Yeah, I'm not sure if we have that setting.
Okay. Well,
all right, it popped up now.
Okay,
Oh,
good.
there he
Judd,
is.
are you able to better speak to how to recover files that get deleted in OneDrive or SharePoint?
Yeah, I don't know that I could show it in detail, but there is a recycle bin for SharePoint that you can access. And I don't know the retention period, but I think it's something like 30, 60, 90 days before they're automatically deleted. And I believe there's some ability to adjust that. So built into 365, there are kind of those protections in that recycle bin for both OneDrive and SharePoint. But then also, Success would certainly recommend a third party, an outside Microsoft backup as an additional layer, so that the limitations in the Microsoft ecosystem aren't your only option.
Right. Thank you. That's perfect.
Bet.
Thank you, Judd. Okay, moving on to the next question. Do you know if the share file feature shortcut is available in Max Finder 2? I wish I was a better Mac person, but from what I understand, yes. We'll look into that more and make sure, again, all these questions that you're answering here, we're going to make sure that we follow up and answer thoroughly, whether that's in the follow-up email or with the content that we produce. So I'll definitely dig into that with the Mac people at Success. All right, we have another question. If you have a hybrid in-person and Teams meeting, how well does recording voices in the room work? That's a great question. So for hybrid meetings, we definitely recommend setting up a Microsoft Teams room system because that system is going to enable the best like microphone sharing experience between in-office and remote participants. It definitely gets hard to do when you're all huddled around. We have various microphones in the room when you're each on your individual laptops or maybe huddled around one person's laptop. That's not a great experience. So with those Microsoft Teams room systems, when you do record those meetings, they're very the audio is pretty well done and audible in those meeting recordings. So we definitely recommend making sure you have the right equipment in those rooms to make that happen. Okay, what is the best practice for initiating the names of your teams and channels? What a great question, and I wish I could answer this better because sometimes you'll start a team and you'll start developing that team and you're like, oh shoot, I didn't name these channels right. And from our experience, renaming channels can break a lot of things further down the line. So we recommend refraining from renaming channels frequently. But I wouldn't put too much pressure on yourself, I guess. I think that teams and channels are supposed to be fluid, and a lot of the times it's okay if a team or a channel dies and then you spin up another one. Really, it's meant to be there to get your work done and to collaborate. Where we want things to be a little bit more polished is on the SharePoint side, because that's like your internet where everyone goes to consume that information. Where in teams and channels is supposed to be those collaboration spaces, and they're going to be a little bit messy. So again, I wish I had a really good answer for that, and maybe my team and I can do some research and put our heads together to give you guys some best practices, so you at least have a framework to start with to get you started there. Okay, I think that was all the questions in the chat. Am I missing anything? I'm going to take silence as we're good. The next ask I have of you guys before I let you all go is to use this QR code to scan the survey and take the survey. And the reason this isn't your average survey, we want to know what questions didn't get answered in this presentation. We want to know what you want to learn more about. We have a space there where you can answer or you can ask more questions that weren't answered here. You can also give us some feedback on what areas of Microsoft 365 you'd like to learn more about, so we can address that through our content and through the services that we provide. Okay, well, if we don't have any more questions, again, we're going to make sure to follow up more thoroughly with each of these questions in our email follow-up and through the content we produce on our website. If you aren't enrolled in our TikTok newsletter, please go to our website and do so. That is where we like to send these tips and tricks. But again, you will, as a registrant of this event, you will receive a follow-up email with more information.
And included in the follow-up email will be a recording of today's event as well.
Yes. Awesome. Well, we got a lot done in 45 minutes. Thank you guys for being such an awesome audience and for your awesome questions. This is going to keep my team busy because we're going to make sure to answer these well for you. So I hope you all have a great rest of your day and that you're off to lunch soon. Bye, everyone.